are approximately 7,000 known rare diseases, but only 5% of them have an approved treatment.
For patients, clinical trials are an opportunity to receive promising new therapies. However, the enrollment process can often be overwhelming to navigate.
And today, on Behind the Mystery, learn how the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society are helping to ease the burden.
But first, let's hear from James, a patient advocate and T-cell lymphoma fighter. Take a look.
The pathologist said there were too many tumors to count. He stopped counting at 50. When I was finally diagnosed, I started doing a little research, and all of the news was terrible. It was rare, it was aggressive. At that point, it was considered incurable.
Since 2008, James has had 2 T-cell lymphomas and MDS. And in 2015, he battled all 3 at the same time.
They were all trying to claim my life. In 12 years, I've relapsed 4 times. I've been in 4 clinical trials, had 9 regimens involving so far 20 drugs. I had a stem cell transplant with my son being my donor.
Dr. Ajay Gopal, the medical director of clinical research, hematology at Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, has more.
Lymphomas are unique in that they are a cancer of the immune system, specifically the white blood cells, the lymphocytes, which are key to fighting infections. So the way we classify lymphomas are in 2 broad groups, non-Hodgkin lymphoma and Hodgkin lymphoma. And within the non-Hodgkin lymphoma, there are 3 major subgroups: the B-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma, the T-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and the NK or natural killer cell non-Hodgkin lymphomas. Peripheral T-cell lymphoma, also known as PTCL, is one of the many subtypes of T-cell lymphomas that typically arises in lymphoid tissue, so lymph nodes, but also can arise in other sites, skin, lung, gastrointestinal tract, for example. Because of its rarity and because the results generally are not what we would like, it's very important to see a specialist that specializes in treating lymphomas and blood cancers, most commonly at a major referral center or university type setting. Unfortunately, the cure rates with peripheral T-cell lymphoma are low. The majority of individuals will experience recurrence of their lymphoma. We are working to develop new therapies, but the most common approach would include chemotherapy, sometimes a targeted agent, and sometimes stem cell transplant is used. In a disease like peripheral T-cell lymphoma, clinical trials are critically important. Clinical trials not only allow the individual who's participating in the trial to have access to cutting-edge therapy, it also helps others with peripheral T-cell lymphoma. This is how all the current therapies that we use were developed for courageous individuals taking part in clinical trials.
A clinical trial is a carefully designed research study which tests the benefits and risks of a specific medical treatment or intervention.
This could be testing a new drug, a drug combination, or use of an already approved drug for a different disease. However, there can be misconceptions about trials.
Clinical trials, importantly, are highly regulated. They are scrutinized by the Food and Drug Administration, by something called an IRB, which is an independent committee which makes sure that they are safe and appropriate for patients, as well as other regulatory committees such as scientific review, etc. To a great degree, the trial is there to evaluate the safety and efficacy of a promising new therapy. And this is where it's important to talk to your doctor, who will be hopefully a lymphoma specialist, who will understand the pros and cons of an individual trial for you and how it fits in with your care.
When my wife made the appointment for me at a national center, we were assigned to a lymphoma specialist. When I was first treated, the standard of care for this lymphoma was not optimal for me, but it was thought to be the best that was available. When I relapsed, he then was able to propose a clinical trial, but it worked out very well.
Coming up, how the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Clinical Trial Support Center is helping patients.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. In an effort to help patients find clinical trials, overcome barriers to enrollment, and increase awareness and education for patients and caregivers, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society created a Clinical Trial Support Center in 2016.
And we met with registered nurse Nina Kennedy, a clinical trial nurse navigator, to learn more. Take a look.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, or LLS, is a global leader in the fight to end blood cancers. So LLS provides support, education, financial resources to patients, families, caregivers, and friends of patients dealing with blood cancers. A cancer diagnosis is really stressful, and the clinical trial landscape is really complicated and hard to understand. And so we really want to try to ease that burden for the patients and their families. Currently, there really is no centralized system to help patients enroll in clinical trials. So Leukemia and Lymphoma Society set up the Clinical Trial Support Center, or CTSC, to help with some of these obstacles for patients. The Clinical Trial Support Center, or CTSC, is a free phone service staffed by nurse navigators who are specially trained nurses and nurse practitioners. We maintain intense education on ongoing treatments for blood cancers, including precision medicine, stem cell transplantation, CAR T-cell therapy, and everything that's really new and upcoming. We work in collaboration with the patients and their healthcare teams and really try to educate and empower patients to get as much information as they can about their diagnosis and their treatment options.
The Clinical Trial Support Center worked with over 750 patients in the past year. Since 2017, there have been 59 FDA approvals for blood cancers, and LLS has helped advance 52 of them.
When we're looking for trials for a specific patient, we take into account their diagnosis, tumor profile, treatment history, their personal health history, their financial situation, their insurance, their geography. Sometimes you have to travel for clinical trials. If the patient and the doctor feel that a clinical trial is the right step for them, we can continue to assist them in the enrollment process. A clinical trial may not always be appropriate for our patients. We encourage them to have a conversation with their doctor to discuss these trials to make sure that this is the right avenue at the right time.
It is very edifying to speak with patients now that are on the drugs that I tried in clinical trial. I was a very small part of this research that is now benefiting them and keeping them alive. Been very active online in cancer support forums. I've addressed patient groups at cancer seminars. For those who are a little hesitant to enter into a trial, chances are you will benefit from it in some way. I've been in 4 trials. I think I benefited from them.
For more information on the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Clinical Trial Support Center, visit lls.org/navigation.
And of course, you can always visit our website at thebalancingAct.com.